Please be good. 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 Distance Over Time by Dream Theater. So Dream Theater really doesn't need any kind of an introduction, especially if you're the audience that I generally talk to. For those of you not in the know or have been living under a rock for the past 20 years, Dream Theater is one of the biggest progressive metal outfits probably since ever. Blending that really brutal metal with more of a sophistication and progressive outfit. And they kind of trailblazed that and opened the doors for countless other bands. They kept kind of reinventing themselves throughout the 90s and even into the 2000s. Standout albums such as Images and Words, Metropolis Part 2, and in my mind, Octavarium. I know a lot of people probably wouldn't quite pin that, but I would. This is the fourth album without one of the founding members of Mike Portnoy on drums. A lot of people considered him one of the quintessential members of the band. So when he left back in 2010, a lot of people thought that where was the band going to go? But the album that they released after that, Dramatic Turn of Events in 2011, showed that the band still had some stay power. Now, unfortunately, this wasn't really seen within the two albums that came out after this. The self-titled work and The Astonishing, not their best work, and in my mind, probably their worst. I think that this band was really suffering from a lot of identity crisis. They didn't really know where they wanted to go. They were trying a whole bunch of different things, and it didn't quite work to the same extent that I think that they were hoping they would. So we come into Distance Over Time, their 14th studio release. The core aspect, the noodling away of the guitars by John Petrucci, the bombastic playing styles on the keyboards that kind of match and compete with this of Jordan Rudess on the keyboards. James LeBray's singing styles, they're there. First off, I do want to say that this album impressed me in a number of different ways. And I want to kind of talk about the things that impressed me first before I get really deep into some of the music within this album. The first is the length. I'm glad that this is only about just under an hour if we don't include the bonus material here. And I also like that the songs are a little bit shorter and a little bit more condensed. We're not kind of looking at our watches anymore with some of the past songs. None of the songs really feel all that disinteresting. The songs being shorter and a lot more condensed, it allows for a lot more of an enjoyable listen. I like the fact that this album is a lot more hard-hitting. A lot of that has to do with Mangini kind of taking the reins a little bit in terms of providing that essential energy, bleeding back into it, making it a little bit more heavy. So Mike Mangini replaced Mike Portnoy, and for the longest time, I was never impressed with his playing style. I thought it was too rigid. It all just felt very bland, I think would be the best word for it. It felt like a drum machine. It felt like a studio drummer that really didn't have any kind of a personality on any of the drums. This is the first time out of any of the albums that he has been on, including live performances, that I really felt his personality shine through. I was really excited about some of the tracks that he's predominantly on. Like tracks such as Falling Into the Light and S2N, and even to a certain extent At Wit's End and Pale Blue Dot. His drumming style is finally something that I can grab onto and something that I can praise. He's not trying to emulate anybody else. He's playing his own work. The guy is fast. I can't discredit his talent for playing fast and hard. And they're finally using that to the best advantage. Within Falling Into the Light, and even to a certain extent, Room 137, the snare drum on this, it feels so powerful. And, every time it hits, it's almost like a shockwave being sent throughout the rest of the song. And I just couldn't help but gush with that power, with that control. It really made me excited for his playing styles, I have to admit. When he was building up the song of Paralyzed and Falling Into the Light at the beginning section, it was an anthem coming into the beginning of those tracks. He built that up within that rhythm section to such an extent that I was excited to hear where the song was going to go. And I think that's what was missing from the past two albums. There wasn't the energy that was felt within the rhythm section. Okay, so I've gushed about Mike Mangini's playing styles. I want to gush a little bit about LeBray's singing. He's finally learned to play within the box that unfortunately the limitations of his voice has put on him. He's always been trying to overextend and overreach his range, and it always felt like they had to introduce some kind of like an after effect or some kind of a reverb or some kind of like a remixing of his vocals, and here it feels very crisp and it feels very flowing. I never feel like, oh shoot, he's going too hard, or oh shoot, he's overextending himself. It's always felt very crisp and very clean. Barstool Warrior probably is the best one for this, even though in some respects it's the biggest Dream Theater song to ever have Dream Theatered, and I never felt cringed. Like when he was singing, I never like cringed at something that he was trying. It was always very well done, and he knows exactly where he needs to be, which I think adds the best part of it. Now, John Petrucci and Jordan Rudess still playing great and still playing very, very well together as well. Either one laying down the foundation for the other one to play in. The best one I can think of for Jordan Rudess, in terms of playing over top of John Petrucci's grounding and his box, is S to N. That play out on Signal to Noise, or S to N, within Jordan Rudess's playing styles. I don't know if he's still using that continuum or if he's using some other app that he's developed, because the guy's a mad genius when it comes to musical apps. Holy geez, like this was fantastic. I felt transported back to like the mid 2000s where they were really trying some new things in terms of the continuum and the keyboard work. And that's very similar to the ending of Untethered Angels. Again, very dark, very meaty. Love that playing style, and Petrucci's playing of just that grounding, very similar to S to N. Really like that play out. That's probably my favorite part of the whole song, is the play out of Untethered Angels. And for Petrucci, at least in terms of the soaring soundscapes, and with Jordan providing the bass of the song, At Wit's End and Pale Blue Dot are probably the two big ones. Like they are the two longer tracks off of this album. At Wit's End, really that soaring guitar work that we're used to, like the ones that I'm thinking back to are like The Best of Times or Ministry of Lost Souls. And Paralyzed has a really great soaring soundscapes, not quite to the same extent as say At Wit's End or The Pale Blue Dot, but it's tasty and it gives us kind of it wets our whistle in terms of what to expect later on in the album. Now in terms of the two playing together, like it's that synergy of the two really kind of playing off one another. Pretty much every track has a little bit of a section where the two do that, but in terms of like the big ones, we've got Room 137. Again, I've already mentioned before. And Falling Into the Light has a great kind of duel between the two. Jordan Rudess's keyboard styles on that are quite interesting. The same with John Petrucci's guitar licks. Some of the negatives about this album, though, overall, Out of Reach is probably the weakest track off this album. And none of the songs really stand out. There's no real, like, any point that I can really, like, grab in and say, like, that was amazing or that was stellar. The entire album feels very safe in certain extents as well, and in some ways I am so happy about that. Because of this, I never want to turn the album off, and I never am bored about these tracks outside of Out of Reach, which, you know, I can give or take. I will also say, as a knock against this album, the structure is a little strange. The first four tracks, Untethered Angels, Paralyzed, Falling Into Light, and Barstool Warrior, they provide like a good opening, but then Room 137 and S to N are very, very closely similar in terms of the thematic approach to how they structured these songs. And then At Wit's End feels like a really good conclusion. Out of Reach is kind of a good cleansing of the palette before we get into Pale Blue Dot, and as much as I love Pale Blue Dot and I love where this song goes, it doesn't feel like a closing. I was almost expecting this album to continue on for one more closing track that we didn't get, and I think that's one of the bigger drawbacks, is the structure of the album. I would have put At Wit's End at being the end track because it provides a very finality, whereas Pale Blue Dot, although it's a great standout track, it doesn't have that same kind of a end point. Even though Petrucci's playing style at the end was brilliant, I didn't really feel all that excited that this was the end track. So, I mean, overall, I was pleasantly surprised with this album. I really thoroughly enjoyed my time spent in it. And yeah, I think that's all I really have to say about this album. Overall, this album is a download. This is one that I would happily have on my computer. I would go back to. I wouldn't want to just stream it, but I wouldn't want to invest like a full thing if I want to go and pick it up in a physical format. Like this isn't one that I'm going to pick up on vinyl, but it is one that I would have on my computer whenever I would want to listen to. So that's about it for Distance Over Time by Dream Theater. What did you guys think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? let me know of your own thoughts about this album by commenting down below. I know a lot of people are loving this album, but for me, yeah, I'm impressed, but I'm not gushing over it. I will say, though, my favorite track off this album is the bonus track of Vapor King by leagues. I friggin' love this track. This is my favorite track of theirs since probably Systematic Chaos. Like anything from Systematic Chaos. I love that this is like channeling the like a Deep Purple feel. This is the only track that afterwards I was like, damn, that was fun. I want to hear it again. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.